Illinois, Rutgers, Kasper-Jonas, Morez Johnson, Will Riley, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey. Oh, this is going to be fun.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. My name is Sunny Verma. You can find me in all your favorite social medias. Do just a quick search for Locked On Illini. Say hello. Say something nice. Say something not so nice. Just keep it constructive. That's all I ask. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're well on our way to 2,100 subscribers. Let's see if we can make it there by the end of next week. I'm excited to talk about Wednesday's game, but before I do that, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Wednesday night on paper, that may not seem like it's much of a matchup between the Illini and Rutgers, but once you just do some sort of research, you'll come to realize that this has the potential to be a game full of fireworks. You're talking about 5 of the premier freshmen in the entire country. I named them at the kickoff of the show. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper and Kasper-Jonas could very well be 3 of the top 5 picks in next year's NBA draft. This is going to be a fun game to watch. It's a game where on paper it doesn't look like it's going to be much of a matchup, but when it comes to Illinois, you just never know. And the fact that Illinois is playing this game away at RAC, I'm going to be honest with you, gives me a lot of Nebraska vibes. Now, I talked about Ace Bailey. I talked about Dylan Harper. Unfortunately, I could not get Aaron Brightman on the show with me today. Something came up very last minute. But he did give me a couple notes on what to expect from Rutgers. And he does not expect Dylan Harper to play. This lingering injury, apparently, it looks like he's going to keep him out one more game. Who knows? That's as of this recording, right? If with the Illini luck, watch him decide to suit up against the Illini and then all of a sudden go off for 25, 30-plus points, which he absolutely is capable of doing. He also mentioned that Ogilvy, their center, will also be missing in action, and he dropped a little note that Jeremiah Williams has been battling the flu this week, and so he's kind of 50-50 on whether he's going to play, and even if he does, he might not exactly be at 100%. This is the game where, I'm very intrigued. Again, I'm not very confident. I'm confident that Illinois should win, but I have those same kind of uneasy vibes that I had about a week ago when Illinois traveled to Lincoln. Not because Rutgers is a better team than Illinois. I mean, Rutgers isn't even a better team than Nebraska from last year, but we know Illinois is very vulnerable to 1 or 2 guys who can just go off for 25, 30, 35 plus points, and just the inability to make adjustments on the defensive side. The thing is, Desmond Claude is one type of player. Ace Bailey is a completely different type of player. Ace Bailey has the potential, as I mentioned, to be a top 3 pick in the NBA draft. And while it looks like he's going to be shouldering a lot of that load alone on Wednesday night, he just happens to be one of those players who's capable of doing it. Right now, he's averaging 34 minutes, and in those 34 minutes, he's averaging 20.2 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game on 47% shooting, and 39% from three-point land. The guy's a star. The guy's a stud. What makes me a little uneasy about this game on Wednesday night is almost every single night that Illinois takes the floor, Illinois has the best player on the court. All right. Now, obviously I'm talking about Kasper-Jonas. This is the game where if Dylan Harper decides to suit up, well, then Rutgers actually has 2 of the best players on the court. I'm a big KJ guy. I love him. He's our guy. But you know what? Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, in my opinion, are in a tier even a little bit above Kasper's when it comes to, their ceilings. Again, Ace Bailey, 6'10", 200 pounds. I have no idea who's going to be guarding Ace Bailey on the Illini on Wednesday night. My guess is Morez Johnson. I can't imagine you'd want to put Ben Hummerkaus on him, but I see a lot of switching happening with Ace. It's going to be a scramble because, again, Ace knows that he's going to have to shoulder a lot of that responsibility and scoring load if Rutgers stands to have a chance against Illinois. I would be a lot more confident if this game was in Champaign. But, Illinois historically tends to struggle at times at the rack. It's just a completely different environment. And because of all the freshmen on this team, because of, all these players who are playing for the first time, essentially, in their college careers on this Illinois team, like, have they experienced a place like the rack before? It's one thing when you have a guy who's already played there 2 or 3 times in his career, come back to the rack, you kind of adjust a little bit, but the rack gets loud, guys. And again, that's just, with the crowd practically all up on top of you, it's just a different kind of environment. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Illinois get off to a slow start. Speaking of which, the kind of start that they're going to go on, what happens, right? I feel like the secret is kind of out on Illinois. Does Illinois continue to shoot the 3-pointer because that's what the game plan is? I'd imagine yes. I don't see Brad Underwood wavering from that at all. That's how he built this team. That's how he put the schematics together to have a 3-point shooting team. Unfortunately, we're the worst 3-point shooting team in the Big Ten Conference, and it has not been working. And I keep bringing up this game from Nebraska from a week ago, right? If those 3-point shots don't start falling, well, we very well could see a repeat of what happened against Nebraska. Now, Illinois obviously saw what they can do when they're not shooting 3-pointers, and that's with a healthy Kasparis, with a healthy Tomislav Ivisic. Well, as healthy as he can be, you can cut to the rim. You have a bunch of playmakers and guys who can get easy shots at the rim. But you know who else knows that? Is Rutgers. The game tape is out on Ohio State now. So at this point, Rutgers, if I'm Steve Pikiell, who I still have a lot of respect for, I think he's a fantastic coach. I know this year has been a struggle for him, and he's going to bear a lot of the responsibility for it. I'm very curious to see how hot his seat gets once Ace Bailey and Harper decide to leave campus at the end of the season. But Steve Pikiell, like, his teams are grinders, right? And I think they're coached pretty decently well. The game plan against Illinois will be, hey, you know what? They love shooting threes and they stink at it, so keep letting them shoot threes. So this is one of those first halves where I can see Illinois, on one hand, be up 15 points at halftime, with a 3-point shot falling. Or I can see us again, just like we did against USC and Ohio State, struggle and at halftime be down 6 to 8 points. But this time, Rutgers is going to make a concerted effort to guard the paint, guard the hoop, so that Illinois doesn't have those backcourt cuts and easier baskets around the rim. They're going to want to force Illinois to shoot long jump shots. And unfortunately, it's been a very long time since Illinois has been able to make those long jump shots. Now, some say Illinois might be due at this point, and ultimately, that's where I stand. My prediction for this game, even though I'm feeling uneasy about it, is that we do have the vintage Illinois that is making those 3-point shots show up on Wednesday night. I do see an Illinois victory. I was not able to see the spread at the time of the recording, but I feel a comfortable maybe 8 to 12 point victory for the Illini, but it's not going to be easy. And again, if you tell me that Ace Bailey goes off for 32 points and 14 rebounds, I'm telling you, I would not be surprised. What it's going to take is that nobody else on that roster is able to supplement Ace and, give another 15, another 20 points, because that's when Illinois, I think, is going to be in a lot of trouble. I want to hear your guys' predictions for this game. Let me know your final score thoughts, who you're looking at for possible MVPs, who's the key player of the game might be. And remember, I don't have to tell you guys, but I always will. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because I'm going to go live immediately after the game, and hopefully we can all celebrate together, win or loss. So you can find me here talking about the game right after the final buzzer. Looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game? Finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, and here's why I love it. The Seat View feature is a game changer. Before I even hit buy, I can see exactly what my seat looks like in the venue. It's so reassuring. And the best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guaranteed. If you find a better deal anywhere else, they'll refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Ready to make your next event even better? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So early on Tuesday, on 3 Sports, more particularly Ari Wasserman, released a list of top 25 college football coaches. And of course, I clicked on the link immediately because I was very curious to see where Brett Bielema was going to be on that list, or if he was going to be on that list. I don't think in years prior he has been, but with the performance that the Illini had this year, I was pretty optimistic that I would see him, and see him I did. Brett showed up on this top 25 list at number 18. My initial thoughts, and I'm admitting maybe a hint of bias here, only because I'm more familiar with what's going on with the Illinois program as opposed to other programs like Arizona State or Miami or University of Utah, who, obviously they love their head coaches, but I just don't know as much about the ins and outs of what's going on over there. All I can do is speak of Illinois. And let me be honest with you. Seeing this list, you have all the big names, Kirby Smart, Ryan Day, Dan Lanning, Steve Sarkisian, Marcus Freeman are the top 5. But again, all the big names that you would think about, most of them are all in front of the Illini or Brett Bielema. I will note some of the names that might have surprised me a little bit is Mario Cristobal, Josh Heupel, Kurt Signetti, Kenny Dillingham, who I mentioned before, Lance Leipold, and Lane Kiffin. Now, a lot of those guys they're proven, especially in particular the top 5. And I understand why they are in the top 5 or in the top 10 in the entire country. But let me be honest with you. When it comes to the situation at Illinois in Champaign, I genuinely don't know if I would want any of those guys that are ahead of Brett to be the head coach of Illinois. And this may sound ridiculous, but just hear me out. Ryan Day is a fantastic head coach, okay? I know he gets a lot of heat for his inability to beat Michigan, but obviously they just won the national championship. But another thing, Ryan Day gets his pick of the litter when it comes to 5 stars, when it comes to 4 stars. Not because of Ryan Day, but because he's coaching at Ohio State. And I should put a little caveat, not any pick of their 4-star, because they lost out to Illinois for Victor Singleton over this past weekend. So I'm going to go ahead and pat ourselves on the back for that. But same thing with Dan Lanning. Okay, Dan Lanning, everybody sees as a future superstar, if not already a superstar head coach in college football. But where would he be without the millions, and I'm talking about tens, if not $20 million of recruiting funds that Oregon and in particular Nike supply him with? A lot of these guys are very good head coaches, and nobody's complaining about that. But we remember that when Brett Bielema took over at Illinois, this program was in the dumps. Lovie Smith, for him being the best Chicago Bears coach of my lifetime, he, in my opinion, was the worst Illinois head coach, especially in particular to what he left. Sure, he left some star players talent-wise, but just when it comes to overall program health, the fact that he stopped recruiting in state, Brett Bielema had to essentially completely rebuild all the relationships between Illinois and all the top high schools in the state of Illinois. I'm not even talking about nationally. Brett Bielema took on a grand undertaking when it came to taking over Illinois. I'm talking about when he took over, we were one of the worst jobs in the Power 5 at the time. And the remarkable turnaround 4 years later, winning 10 games, I think I can't hand it to him enough. I just don't think that a guy like Deion Sanders or, again, Mario Cristobal would be able to replicate the success at Illinois that Brett Bielema has been able to do, because I don't know if they have the chops to do it. You have to be a little humble to take this job. Illinois, as much as we all love our school, isn't a brand name when it comes to football. Obviously Brett Bielema is trying to change that. And at some point, maybe, we're on track to do just that. But right now, as is, no one is dying to watch Illinois football unless you already have an association with the university. A lot of these schools ahead of him and the coaches ahead of him are with brand name schools. Again, Josh Heupel, yeah, you're also at Tennessee. Mario Cristobal, University of Miami. Now, Kurt Cignetti at Indiana and Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, those are great coaching jobs. Now, would I rather have those guys in charge of Illinois than Brett? That's actually an up for topic and discussion, because if Kurt can do that at Indiana, maybe he can do that at Illinois as well. But what I do know is that I've seen Brett do it. And I've seen Brett turn Illinois around and bring in the right level of recruits, and each year just slowly get better and better with not only the talent that we bring in into the locker rooms, but also what we see passing the eye test on the field. Illinois won 10 games last year, only lost 3. They had a Citrus Bowl win over an SEC opponent. And guess what? Next year, they might be even better. They're going to be returning 16 starters from last year's 10-win team. 18 of those starters were the starters from the bowl game. A lot of their key players are coming back, including having a senior quarterback, which now in college football is going to be a huge advantage for Brett and the Illini. Let's see what he does next year. Yeah, and it's just one of those where I don't know if Steve Sarkisian would be able to replicate what Brett's done at Illinois. I don't know if Steve would be able to win 10 games in his 4th year if he was in charge of the Illini. What are your thoughts? Am I elevating Brett Bielema a little bit too high? Am I drinking the orange and blue Kool-Aid a little bit too much? I honestly don't think so. I've thought about this segment all day long. When I saw this top 25 coaches ranking, I'll put the ranking in the description so you guys can take a look at. But a lot of these names are household names, right, ahead of them. But I just don't know if they would have the patience and, quite honestly, the resilience that Brett had for Illinois. He knew that this would potentially be his last stop, and we certainly hope it's going to be his last stop when it comes to being a head coach. And he just wanted to do the things the right way. It wasn't about shortcuts. It wasn't about making a quick buck. He knew what it takes to win at a program like Illinois. This is not going to be a program where you're going to pay the top 5 stars to come in and play year 1. No, that's just not going to work. That formula would not work in Champaign. In Illinois, we're always going to be a developmental program, which works because there's a lot of talent both locally and in the states surrounding us. But those guys have to be coached up, and Illinois is very fortunate having Brett Bielema that we have one of the best developers of talent in the entire country at Illinois. Now, ranked number 18, I think that's too low. If it was up to me, I'd probably rank him closer to 12 or 13 in the country. But having said that, like I said, I don't think there's any other coach in the country that I think would do as good of a job at Illinois as Brett has done. Did you know Locked On Illini has its very own Discord? Well, you should, and it's growing by the day. So if you're looking to have interactions with your fellow Illini, the best part about this Discord is we're spread out all over. We talk about it in the introductions, essentially. It's a lot of Illini fans who may not be in Champaign anymore, or may not even be in the Chicago area. We're spread out nationwide, but we have a place to collectively get together and talk Illini sports each and every day. So I cordially invite you guys, if you're looking for a place to interact with other fans, to please click on the link in the description and help continue our community to grow. Again, please make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because I'm going to be live immediately after the Rutgers game. Why? Because I do that after every game, whether it's basketball or if you join me during football season. My everydayers in here, shout out to all of you. I sincerely, you know what? If you're watching it to this long, let me know in the chat if you're one of my everydayers. I really want to give you a special shout out in a future episode. I'm very grateful for your guys' continued support for this channel. I'll see you all Wednesday night after this Rutgers game. Hopefully we get to celebrate together. Thank you for making Locked On Illini your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Craig Shimon puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooks it. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Shout out to the PHC. I'll see you after the Rutgers game.